your hosts, Sunny and Lola.
Hey guys, it's Sunny, and today I'm going to show you how a beginning crafter like me made a unicorn rainbow cake for my doll. And I am really excited but also nervous because, like I said, I am a beginner and I've never done anything like this before on our channel. I don't think. I've done maybe some like doll rooms with like sewing and stuff like that, but I haven't actually done a craft like this. Now, I've been seeing these all over YouTube lately in different forms and varieties, but I have yet to see one exactly like this. So I don't know if it's the first of its kind, but it's just what I came up with, combining some different things that I've seen in different videos, along with some of the trends that I've seen with these types of cakes. This is my interpretation. So again, I'm a beginner. This is how I did it. Someone else might do it better. Someone else might do it differently. That's fine. I'm going to show you what I did to make this cake. And I just think it is so adorable. Look at the rainbow layers. It's not perfect. And one thing I'm learning with crafting is it's never going to be perfect. You just have to get it to where you're happy with the way it looks and with your, that you're happy with what you created and that you have fun with it. And if you're not having fun doing it anymore, then don't do it. That's what I've learned, because when I'm not having fun, it just becomes like work, and I don't want it to be work. I want to have fun when I'm doing these kinds of things. Sometimes I put it down and take a break too. So let me go ahead and get my supplies out on the table, and I'll show you what I used, and we will go ahead and start trying to assemble another one, and I'll show you my process. I'll be right back. Okay, so the first thing I have for you is craft foam, and I bought this at Joann Fabrics. I used a 50% off coupon. It's a great big giant pack of multicolored. They're not very big. They're about like an 8x5 or so. They're about half the size of a standard sheet of copy paper. And I bought these because they already have the sticky back to them. So you just peel this paper off and they stick. And the reason I bought that is to make my life a lot easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of each color of the different colors. And then I'm going to make about 7 or 8 or maybe even 9 of the white ones. Because we're going to use these as the top, the bottom, and the layer. And then we're also going to use the white craft foam for the outside. So you'll go through a lot more of the white. So if you do buy these, just individual sheets of these, you're definitely going to want to get a lot more white craft foam. And you don't have to use the kind that has the sticky back. That's just what I bought to make my life easier and because I had a coupon. Okay, the next thing I had in I already had this in my drawer, in my craft drawer. And it is a stamp that is 1 1/2 inches. You can use a smaller one if you want to make a smaller cake. The cake I made was pretty tall and pretty wide, but I was trying to go for something like, really magical. So I wanted it that size. And what you would do is just take this craft punch and you're going to line it up on your paper and you're just going to punch it. Now, some craft foam you won't be able to cut with one of these. You might need the one that I think Joann sold one that was a Fiskars, and it cuts thicker foam. So depending on the width of your foam, how wide your foam is, it may not cut it, but this one cuts just fine. It has a few jagged edges on it, but it's not a big deal. So what you're going to do is cut the white ones and then cut one of each color. So I'm going to do that and I will be right back. All right, now I finished cutting all of these out. It just took me a couple of minutes. I have one of each of the colors and I have about 9 or 10 of the white ones here. And as I said, this foam has a sticky back. So the next thing we're going to do is assemble. But before we get to the assembling of this, I want to tell you what else you're going to need or what you might want to have on hand. So one of the things you're going to want is a pair of scissors. Another thing, you may want some paints. So I have this metallic gold, which I used for the inner parts of the ear and part of the horn. I have some black paint here. Both of these are just in my stash of art supplies. You're going to want some glue. I used Turbo Tacky Glue by Eileen's. I got this at Walmart. You could use probably school glue or any kind of craft glue would be fine. Another thing that I use, and this is also optional, is I use the Deco Art Glistening Snow Text, Glittering Snow. Now I use that as my base, my glitter base for the icing. You don't have to use that. You can use, I think like puffy paint will stick to craft foam, so you can use that. I could not find my puffy paint, so this is what I used. And this is in a jar like this, and I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. And I got this at Michael's in a, it kind of looks like, kind of putty like, and I'll show you how I put that on here in a minute. But I got this at Michael's, and I did use a 50% off coupon. I got it in the paint section. If you just go to where they keep the paint, this will be one of your options. So I got this for the icing, the outside icing. And I put it on with one of these little plastic spatulas. I got this on clearance at Walmart. And then I have various glitters and little like star glitter and heart glitters that I got again, I think at Joann's, and I used a coupon for that. I think I paid like $2 or $3. And then you might need some paint brushes, various sizes, depending on what you're going to use to put on the cake. So I have some different paint brushes. These are just some cheap paint brushes that I bought also in a Walmart clearance. Let's see. Now, this is only to be used if you have grown-ups help. So don't use one of these if you don't have it grown-ups, but I do use an X-Acto knife. This step is optional. You do not have to use one of these. You may, in fact, be able to use scissors, but I don't know if you'll be able to use it with a cake as thick as this. But we'll see. We'll see if we decide to use that step or not. And then another thing is, and this looks really bizarre, is I have a piece of styrofoam here that I use a lot for crafting. And I've got a nail in it and a needle in it, and that is to put your cake on. And again, I will show you that here in a minute. I like to use the nail better because it seems like it holds it more sturdier. But sometimes I do use the needle. Again, parental supervision. If you're a kid, don't do this unless you have supervision from a parent or a legal guardian. Someone who can make sure that you're not going to hurt yourself. I am a grown-up, so therefore, you know, that's why I do it. And then you might also want to have a nail file. And again, I will show you why you'll need all this. And also, when you cut out the white craft foam, you're going to probably use most of that small sheet. And you're going to want to keep your scraps nearby because we actually cut the ears from these scraps where you punch the holes out. And this one's going to cover the outside of the cake when you get done with the layers. So, I think I've gone over all of the supplies that I have. And now we're going to go ahead and start assembling. I almost forgot one important element. This is a piece of gold glitter craft paper. Like, I found this in the section where they keep the scrapbook paper. This one's just an 8 by 11 or 8 by, is it 8 by 10 and a half, 8 by 11 sheet of craft paper that I found. Joann Fabrics had their scrapbook paper this last week. I think it was like 12 sheets for $2. So I bought a couple of sheets of this, and I do plan on using it for some other projects coming up really soon. But I did cut a bit of this for the horn that I'll use later. So I'm just going to go ahead and just do that now. And I just basically cut off a small square of this, and then the rest you can save for another project, which is what I'm going to do. So that's it. That's all you need. So you just need a small amount so you can use any scraps that you have. So we're going to put this aside to work on the horn later. Okay, so we're going to start the base with a white. And we are not going to peel the paper off of the back. We're just going to put this down like this. And then the colors, I'm going to start with purple at the bottom. And all you're going to do is peel off the paper try to line it up as best as you can with the one on the bottom and press it together. So we're going to go ahead and speed right through this as I put all the rest of the layers on. Otherwise, we might stay here for 20 minutes while I do this, because I have to do each layer really carefully so I make sure they don't get lopsided. So let's get going. Oh, and I forgot to say you want to alternate the white in between the layers. Now you want to take your nail file and any of these rough edges, see these little white rough edges here? You can just file them off. They should just come right off. Don't worry if you leave any marks on the craft foam. It's not really gonna matter. It's gonna get covered up anyway. We just want it to be somewhat smooth before we put the outer layer on. You want to wipe away any of that loose foam. Okay, so we're going to just get a few of these over here. Again, just want to make sure we're smoothing it out a little bit. Okay. Just a few more. Trying to get that one. That's okay. As long as we get most of it smoothed down. There we go. Alright. So that's it. It's all stuck together. It looks pretty good. Pretty rounded. Don't forget, again, we still have paper on the bottom. So if you were to take this off right now, it's going to stick to something. I just left the paper on there for mine. Because I thought maybe if I ever decided I wanted to stick it to a cake plate permanently, I could take that off. I don't know. It's optional. Again, it's optional. That's just what I did. So we're going to move on to the next step. Okay. So the next step is you're going to take some of your craft paper, your foam, craft foam, and you are going to try to make it as big as the width of or around the width of the cake, or the circumference of the cake, I should say. So try to estimate where you need to cut. More is better, so you don't want to cut it too short. Let's see if you can see this. So what I usually do is roll it around like this, and then kind of eyeball it. So I think I want to cut maybe right here. And again, you can always cut it shorter, but you can't make it longer. So it's better to err on the side of caution. So we're just going to cut this like this. Okay. And then also, we're going to measure the height. So it looks like if we start down here, we're going to want to measure the height here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see here. So again, it's better to err on the side of caution. You want it longer than shorter. So I'm going to turn it like this. And I'm going to score it with my nail file. So I'm just going to score it. I just want to make sure it's sitting straight. And I'm just going to kind of score it right here so I know where to cut. Okay, there we go. And then we're just going to cut it straight across. Again, more is better than not enough. Okay, so more is better than not enough. Alright, so we have that piece cut off. Now the next step, I'm going to raise the camera up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, the next step is we're going to peel the sticky back off. Okay, here we go. So we have this, so now it's sticky, right? It's sticking to my fingers. And I'm going to pick a spot where I'm going to start. I'm going to line it up with the bottom or the top, whichever one you want to line it up with. So I'm going to line mine up with the bottom. You're going to stick it on there. And then you're going to just kind of go around. Let's see if you got that. And I'm just going to line it to the top. So I want to line it as much to the, to the bottom. This is the bottom of the cake. So I'm going to line it. I'm just kind of smoothing it as I go with my fingers. I'm not worried about the top layer. I'm just worried about where I'm sticking it right now. This top. And you can kind of maneuver it if you have to go a little higher, a little bit lower. If your cake is not even, like sometimes mine aren't. And then you're going to just go all the way around to the end. Now when you get to the end, you notice I have a little too much. See, it's going to be over. So this is where you want to try to eyeball it again and get a really good trim on it. This foam does give a little stretch. So, I mean, if you go a little too much, I'm just going to take a little bit off and see if that's enough. And then I'll just keep trimming back until it meets. So that's still a little too much, still overlaps. You don't want it to overlap, you want it to meet. So I'm going to just keep trimming just a little tiny bits. I mean, that was tiny. And I think this will do it. Oh, I don't want it to have a gap, so I'm going to pull. I'm going to pull a little bit to try and make those ends meet. There we go. Now once you smooth the one down, the rest of it will follow. And it's okay if it's not perfectly seamed there. If you don't have a perfectly straight seam, that's okay. The important thing is it's all covered and you don't have a huge gap there. And now, you see how we have excess hanging off the top? You can just kind of go around with your scissor and trim it just like that. Let's see here. Okay, and trying to get all of that off there. There we go. Whoops. Don't worry if you trim it a little too much. You're going to have some icing on it that'll cover up. Okay, and then to get the edges smooth, you're going to, again, you can take a nail file. Oops, don't do like I just did. There we go. Want to make sure you clean it off with the other colors before you file it. But basically, you can take your nail file and smooth those edges down. Okay, and the same thing with the other side, which I don't see any need to do anything with the other side. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, and this is the paper here. So this is the top of the cake. Uh-oh. I don't know if y'all can hear that. The neighbor's cows are real close by, apparently, because I hear them mooing right across the street. Okay, so this is what you're left with. You are left with this shape. It is a little rough here, so we'll still keep sanding away a little bit. Try to get those edges. We might trim those with our scissors, but don't worry about it too much because we're going to cover all that up anyway. So let's get on to the next step. Okay, the next step, I take the bottom of the cake where I have the paper backing, and I'm going to push it onto, actually I'm going to do this backwards. I'm going to put the nail, you can do it the sharp end or the non-sharp end. Probably worse to do the sharp end. So you're going to put a nail or a needle or something that you can stick through the foam that doesn't take too much work. It doesn't need to go in there very far. And then you're going to poke it through the styrofoam. And this is going to hold your cake while you're frosting it. And I say frosting because, as I said, I am using the Deco Art Glistening Snow Tex. This is like a very thick textured, almost like a paste or a putty. And all I do is I spread it all over the cake and try to cover up all of those gaps. I don't know if you can see that very well. Hopefully you can. And so basically I just take a little bit out on the back of this putty knife and I just cover the cake. So that's what I'm going to do here, and I'm going to fast forward it just for the sake of time because this video is going to be really, really long, and since I'm a beginner, I talk too much, and I might be like skipping steps or whatever, so I apologize. Here we go. And there you go. And one thing I want to note is you don't have to be super, super perfect on this. You just want to make sure you cover up any flaws or any like gaps as best you can, adding as much texture, because this paint is very, this Glistening Snow Tex is very textured. It's kind of sandy, it's like gritty, and so you just want to make sure you cover up any places where there's seams on the foam, and it'll look kind of like this. When it dries, of course, it'll look more like this one does, almost like a snow texture, and I think it's perfect for the unicorn cake. Okay, here is my next step. I have this gold glitter paper. It is almost like a cardstock. Now, if you have some regular white paper and you have some gold glitter paint, this will work just fine. Use the white glitter paper, white paper, and then use the glitter paint on it. But the way I did this is I just started rolling it like a cone, or tried to roll it like a cone. And this paper is really hard to do that. So I don't know if anybody else has a tip or trick for me to roll it better. But I basically just kind of rolled it like this and rolled it as a cone, and then just let it come around like that. And let's see here if I can get it more in a cone shape. So there's what I got it into. And then I take my glue, which I'm trying to get open. I should have opened it before. There we go. I just take my glue and I glue this little piece here. And with this turbo tacky glue, it doesn't take very long at all. It glues pretty quickly. So I just take the glue and I put it there and I hold it until it glues. Okay, so you see how it's kind of got a horn. The problem with this is that it leaves some white spots at the top. I don't know if you can see those. So what I do is I take some gold paint later on and I go back and I paint over those a little bit so that I can cover that up. So right now I'm waiting for this to get done, and then we'll trim it, and then we'll go ahead and glue it to the unicorn cake, the top of the unicorn cake. Unfortunately, I think that for the sake of time, I'm going to have to show you one that I've already glued on. let's go to here. Okay, let's show you this one because this is going to take forever to glue to get it to set. So I've got one already done. You can see where I added the glue down here. I glued it to the thing, to the cake. And I have painted around there to cover up the white spots. Now this cake I messed up on a couple of times, so it's not the best version. You can see how much I cut out of it. It didn't go very well. I do have one slice that comes out, but it's awful looking. So I'm just gonna use this for the sake of demonstration to show you what I did with the ears. The ears, I took these scraps like this, and I just cut little ear shapes. I don't know what that looks like to you, but I know what it looks like to me. So basically, almost like a teardrop kind of shape. They don't have to be perfect, guys. Again, you know, you can reshape them, cut them again. This one's awful looking. And you're just going to glue these onto either side of the horn with some glue. Again, I use this tacky glue. And then once you get done doing that, you're going to put gold inside here. And again, I'll show you my example. And then from there, it's easy peasy. You just start decorating the cake. You can, I'm not real happy with my paint job here, so I tried to cover it up with some more of the Snow Tex coloring. But that's okay. That's what happens when you're a first time or a beginner. I did use glue, my Turbo Tacky glue, and put it all over the top here and let it drizzle down. And then I added lots of glitters and lots of embellishments. And so this is the end result. And if you want to get a slice out, again, if you're a kid, if you're under the age of 18, make sure you get adult supervision. Be super, super careful. But what I did was I took an X-Acto knife and I cut a slice out. So that's how I got that slice here. And that's how I do that. And make sure that when you cut the slice out, make sure the slice actually gets, you know, that you have the various like frostings and decorations on that slice as well, so that you can put it back in there. And you want to put the slice towards the back or the side where someone won't know that the cake has been cut yet. And then you can pretend to have your doll cut a slice and put it on. Whoops. I say that, and then I don't have the plate. Put it on a piece of plate. Put it on a plate. Well, that is all I have for you today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this beginner's tutorial on how to make a rainbow unicorn cake for your doll. I loved how it turned out, and you know, that's what matters when you're crafting, guys, is that you're having fun and you love how it turns out. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So, I mean, I hope you guys like it. And I hope you guys make some. And if you do, make sure you tag me and Lola on Instagram. If you post them to Instagram and you make one of these cakes. Because I'd love to see how you guys did. And in the comments below, tell me, what kind of beginner craft do you want to see me make next? Or do you want to see us make crafts at all for your dolls? Doll crafts. So, that is all I have for you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you click the bell notification so you're notified when we post new content, which is almost every day. And that is all. So, we will see you guys, hopefully, tomorrow. Bye!